Hey there, happy innovators. It's time for another Singularity Podcast. Are you ready? Good. You know, the last time I did a podcast, I had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to do another 5-day podcast, one of those podcasts where I do a little bit each day of the week. And, rather than sitting down all in one bite and just doing the whole thing, I decided, it's good sometimes to kind of spread it out and, allow for different kind of thoughts and different kind of ideas, throughout the week rather than just trying to cram it all into one day. So that's what you got right here. I decided today I'm going to do another 5-day podcast. So today is Monday, August 24th, 2020. And very early in the morning, so I'm a little bit dragging, a little bit tired, maybe a little slow, but I'm sure that won't affect anything. At least I hope it won't. There's this song by David Bowie. It's called Let's Dance, and I know that probably everyone who is hearing this podcast knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure that you remember the song. You may even like it a lot. You may have even bought the album, Yeah, it was a pretty big hit for David Bowie, and of course, the song was propelled by the video that accompanied the song at the time it was released. And so I've always kind of associated a song like Let's Dance by David Bowie with the video. Like whenever I hear the song on the radio or someone's playing it or something, in my mind when I'm hearing it, I'll go back to that video, that visual representation that accompanied the song. And that's probably because, I'm part of the MTV generation. We were the first generation, really, when I was a kid, to come up with, music that was always accompanied by a visual. Prior to that, it was only radio or 8-track tapes or cassette tapes or whatnot. And so my generation was the first to be introduced to the music video. So, during that time, I'm sure as most of you remember, the visual and the aesthetics of a rock group became very important. It became central. Maybe sometimes even eclipsing the music itself. Like the visual was actually more impactful, or maybe sometimes more important, But I got to thinking about that, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately, especially because it's like, I wonder now, like in hindsight, which is 2020 vision, of course, I kind of wonder, is that such a good thing? Like, was it actually, at the time, it helped to sell records, right? You put out a song, you put out a video, and, even to this day, that's really kind of like how it's done. But I'm not 100% sure that it's such a great thing. Like, in some ways, did that idea ruin rock and roll? Like, did it kind of change it to the point where it became so superficial that, the music was no longer important, and it would kind of, depending on the audience that your video appealed to, and the imagery and all those things, the fashion, the hairstyles, all those things, how much did those impact the music and actually maybe sometimes narrow that audience for that artist, like, because they were so niched, they were so specific. They had to have certain criteria that needed to be met. Your hair had to be so high, your pants had to be tight, you had to have something visual to accompany your music that would help to like identify and solidify like your brand and like what you were selling, what audience you were aiming at. But when I think about it now, when it enters my mind and I'm kind of examining this idea, I really do kind of feel that might be bad. It might have been a bad thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I love videos. Some of them are art, especially over the past 20 or 30 years. It's a long time. It's a lot of videos, it's a lot of songs and a lot of videos. And some of those videos that have come out over, since MTV started, are masterpieces of cinematography. I mean, they're great, but it really shouldn't be about the visual. It really should be about the music, right? I mean, that's really what is being sold, or that's what is being conveyed. Like, you couldn't have the video without the song, but you can have the song without the video, right? And I wonder if, that has harmed the art of songwriting in this way. And I'll explain it to you. Now, when you think about it, like when an artist puts out a new song, let's say it's a great song like Let's Dance, and they put out a video as well, you do associate the music with the visuals, right? So you're no longer just listening to the song. Like, you're not active listening, really. You're hearing the song, but there's this visual that comes with it. And, using Let's Dance as a perfect example, like, I had heard that song 1,000 times, I'd seen the video 1,000 times, and, I've heard it on the radio and stuff, but I never really listened to the song. Like, I never really opened my ears and really listened to the song, just the song, right? So a little while ago, maybe a couple months ago or something, I was listening to YouTube while I was working, and this song Let's Dance by David Bowie came on, and of course I couldn't see the video. I was busy doing something. I was just listening to the song. So I decided to just stop what I was doing and to just listen. Just listen, And it was like hearing the song for the first time for me. It was really something I had never really done before, like this, where, it was not a record I bought. It was not something that I, loved so much that I had to have it. So it wasn't like something I listened to in my spare time, right? It was something that would, come on the YouTube or on the radio, and, So I decided I was going to start this idea of, like, I guess I would call it active listening. That's kind of what I'm going with right now. But, I'm going back through the music of my youth, and I'm abandoning the visual. So, like, I'm listening to music without any kind of superficiality or whatever, like, at all. It's just, what is the song doing, And I've talked about this idea before of good is good, this philosophy I have, where it's like, it doesn't matter to me, like, who sings the song. It doesn't matter to me what kind of clothes they're wearing or what their hairstyle is. I listen to music, for what it is. I don't really care so much about the fashion and the aesthetics. I'm a musician, right? So, and I gotta tell you, it's really been kind of shocking a little bit to me to go back and to just listen to what the musicians of my youth were actually doing. Like, what are they actually doing? What is the performance like in the studio, right? Because, when you're in a recording studio, even though it's not in front of a live audience, they're still singing it. They're still playing it. And a lot of times they're constructing the song, in the studio, right? So when you're listening to these sound recordings from back in the 80s, 90s, even now, 2000s, it's really a different kind of experience when you can separate the music from any kind of visual, any kind of aesthetic. And, I'm just kind of going back, listening to the productions and the songwriting and, even some of, like, the hair metal bands, which, in my opinion, are not always bad. The music was not always bad. The music is one thing, the fashion is another, and it's really kind of distracting, and unfortunately, it probably has been the undoing of a lot of these great songs that have come out in the past, because the artist that made the song and made the video was so niched, and the video was pointed and directed at a specific audience, and the record executives and the video producers, they all had that worked out. It's a fact. They knew that formula. They know what they're doing when it comes to promoting music. That's why we've heard about a lot of these bands and we know these great songs from the past. But isn't it weird to kind of think about that idea of being part of the MTV generation, and maybe it wasn't such a good thing all the time. I mean, think about it. Is how many bands have, faded into obscurity because, even though they had a great song, maybe their visual didn't work. It didn't please the audience, or, maybe it was like, it just appealed, the video just appealed to such a narrow audience that, it made the song insignificant. It made people tune out because the video was not done correctly, or, it didn't appeal, the visuals didn't appeal to certain people. How many great songs have been lost to obscurity because that happened? And I can think of a handful of examples myself, especially when it comes to like 80s hair metal and those songs that were coming out back in the day. And I'd be the first to acknowledge that a lot of that stuff was really corny. A lot of the videos were ridiculous. A lot of the songs were ridiculous. The subject matter was ridiculous, but not all the time. Not all the songs that came out from the hair metal era, or even, the industrial music era or rave dance music era, these styles of music that were so inextricably tied and bound to a certain way of dressing, a certain way of looking and acting, certain kinds of, lyrics, that appeal to a specific crowd. But every once in a while, if you go back and you listen, you realize that sometimes the songs were masterfully constructed and masterfully written and performed in the studio. I mean, they're great, and this song, Let's Dance, is probably, a great example of that. And then the song was always good. I always liked it, but I never really just listened to the song. So I did that, and it was so cool. It was so cool. And I got into it a little bit. I decided after hearing the song, if 150 times, I heard it for like the first time, I really felt that way, and I was really kind of taken aback at how kind of psychedelic that song is. Like, it always kind of struck me as like a pop song, but when you really go back and listen to Let's Dance by David Bowie, and you close your eyes and you just listen to what the music is doing and what his voice is doing and what he's saying, it's really kind of much more artistic and much more abstract, of a song. It's not really a pop song. It's more of like psychedelic. It's more tripped out, and his voice is incredible and the music is great. And I just saw this video on YouTube, interview with Nile Rodgers. He's a famous producer. He used to play guitar in a band called Chic, CHIC, back in the day, kind of like a disco funky band, and this guy, emerged as one of the top producers in the rock and roll industry just over time. And he worked with Duran Duran, a lot of those bands that were like funky, have funky rhythm sections. And Bowie had signed him up to work on this album, Let's Dance, right? And this guy Nile Rodgers is talking about the song Let's Dance and how it came about, how it was written. And he tells this story like, him and Bowie were living in a house working on the album, getting ready, like pre-production, writing songs, starting to record songs. They were, gearing up for these sessions, and Bowie had come into the room with a guitar, playing this song idea that he had. And it was really kind of like, according to Nile Rodgers, it was really kind of like basic and, simple, but Nile Rodgers is like a highly trained guitar player. I mean, a phenomenal, classically trained musician. So he took this basic song structure that Bowie had kind of presented to him, and he started to work on it, and he started to come up with ideas, and it started to change. And it went from being some kind of like folky song to a much more funky, kind of artistic and abstract song, and it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me. I can't even imagine what that must be like to be an artist and you have a producer, because I think a lot of the time, a lot of people don't understand what the role of a producer is. But it's not just a matter of being like in the studio and working in the studio. Being a producer is more of a behind the scenes kind of thing. It's invisible. You don't realize that a lot of the great songs that you've heard over the course of your lifetime are not just the result of one singer-songwriter or a group of singer-songwriters. The producers step in and they change the palette, they change the colors, they change the way the music is being presented and how it's arranged and how the words go and how the voice sounds and the drum sounds and all those things. So, just go back in time. Think of a song. Think of Free Falling by Tom Petty, right? Great song. Absolutely masterfully written, recorded, produced, and performed. It's just top shelf. But that is not just a result of, Tom Petty sitting down with a guitar and writing a song. Jeff Lynne, formerly of ELO, produced that song. So, you can hear it in the Tom Petty productions. You can hear Jeff Lynne's influence. If you really know Jeff Lynne and you really listen to Tom Petty, you really take the time, right, to just sit down and just listen to the song. Forget about the video, forget about the album cover, forget about what Tom Petty looks like or the Heartbreakers, what they look like, right? Just go back, listen to that song. It's fascinating to me how, since I've been kind of doing this idea of active listening, it has changed the way I think about music and the way I think about writing songs and producing songs and like what I should be shooting for or what I can aim for as a high watermark. It's really, really strange. It sounds simple and maybe it sounds stupid that, being a musician, you think that I would have been active listening the whole time. And maybe to a certain degree I have been, but not this specific, not this focused, of just sitting down sometimes, picking some random song from back in the day and just really just listening to it. Forget about the time it came out, forget about what they looked like, forget about all that stuff and just listen to the music and what the notes are doing, what the singer is doing. Oh my gosh, when you go back and do this, one thing I gotta tell you, man, there are a lot of great singers that came out, back in the 80s and the 70s, 80s, and 90s, early 2000s. I mean, just over the years, there's just been so many great singers, Dee Schneider from Twisted Sister. That sounds so funny to say it, because when I say Twisted Sister, right, we associate, the music with this visual that was, let's face it, was a bit extreme, a bit outrageous. It appealed to, a relatively narrow audience, but that does not change the fact, okay, that when it came down to stepping up to the microphone and belting out a performance, a vocal performance, Dee Schneider was amazing. He was an amazing singer. What he could do with his voice. I mean, have you ever tried to sing? It's like, it is not easy to do well. It is not easy to be, a fantastic singer. They come, few and far between, So, I thought of this idea of mentioning, like in this podcast, like giving you a few songs that I would recommend you go back and you only listen to the music, okay? You just listen to it. And so, well, I guess Let's Dance by David Bowie would be one of them, okay? The first one. Go back, find it on YouTube, but don't watch the video version. Watch like the remastered, title card video, with the album cover on it, and it says remastered in, 2016 or something. Go back and listen to that. Just listen to it. Turn the lights off in the room, close your eyes, turn it up, and really listen to what the music is doing. Really listen to what's happening. Now, another song that I've recently kind of discovered, and I've heard this song before, so that's not true. I didn't just discover it, but I kind of rediscovered it. Okay, and this is one of the songs I would say, here's like a test to the happy innovators, okay? Go onto YouTube and find the song Hold On to My Heart by Wasp, okay? W-A-S-P, and the song is called Hold On to My Heart, okay? Now, this song, in my opinion, okay, is a great example of a song that is masterfully written, okay, and performed and recorded. Like, as a guy, me, who's, written a few songs, and I still write songs, I'm listening now. I'm listening, and I'm not watching. I'm just listening to the song. And yes, the song is a little corny. Okay, the lyrics are a little bit corny, but it's a love song, so it's written in the language of love. It's not something you dance to. It's meant to be emotional, personal, and a song about love. Okay, and hopefully, you've been in love, and you would understand that sometimes when you're writing a love song, you're gonna say some things that are corny. They're a little cheesy, maybe. If you're cool, it'd be too cheesy for you. But I listen with different ears, so I get it. The language of love. Okay, let's listen. And this song in particular, it's one of those things where I break it down. I listen to it and I break it down. Like, okay, I imagine myself holding a guitar, sitting down in a chair and saying, okay, I'm going to write a song now. I'm going to work on a song. I'm going to construct something, right? Well, this guy, this singer from Wasp, his name is Blackie Lawless. Horrible name, unfortunately, the band was called Wasp, and they were a heavy metal band, and they had, raw meat being flung at the audience, and their videos were like hypersexual and skin tight pants and all sex all the time, rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that was what they were shooting for back in the day. But Blackie Lawless, okay, even when he was writing the heavy stuff, the really outrageous stuff, his songwriting and his voice and the chord changes and the ideas were all really well done. I mean, really executed at a very high level, okay? And unlike a lot of artists that are great singers, because Blackie Lawless from Wasp is a great singer, okay? Trust me. As a guy who has stepped up to the microphone a few times myself, yeah, I mean, you can't just get up to the microphone and do what he does. He's a highly, highly talented singer and songwriter, because like I was getting at before, Blackie Lawless is not just a singer. He writes his own songs and he produces a lot of his own songs. So, this is a guy who's been in the music industry for, I don't know, a good 20, 30 years or something. By now, he definitely has a handle on this idea of writing songs and producing songs, right? Writing lyrics and singing, getting up to the microphone and singing. So they have this song. It's called "Hold On to My Heart," and I liked it a long time ago. The video is a little cheesy and stuff, but with a band like Wasp, I've always kind of given them the benefit of the doubt. Okay? And I would challenge you as a happy innovator, like right now, I would challenge you to go back and listen to the song "Hold On to My Heart" by Wasp. Can you believe it? What a horrible name. And just listen to the song for what it is. It's a love song. And just listen to what this guy does with his voice and with the things that he's saying and the changes, the chord changes and the ideas that he came up with to sing. I mean, his voice is all over the place. It's fantastic. He kind of has like a Stevie Nicks kind of quality to his voice. Even though he's a man, he has that kind of, I don't even know what the word would be, like a kind of sadness in his voice, in the choices, the notes that he sings and where he goes with his voice. I challenge you right here and now to go onto YouTube, find the song "Hold On to My Heart" by Wasp, and just listen to what he's doing with his voice. Just try to isolate in your happy, innovative mind, like separate his voice from the music, and separate the music from the image, separate the music from the superficiality, right? Like, do away with it and just listen to the song for what it is. Like, imagine you're in the room while he's singing this song. You're sitting right in front of him while he's doing it. It would be really impressive, like you wouldn't be bored watching him sing this song. It would be probably, phenomenal. So there you go. Monday, 24th of August, 2020. There's my challenge to all you happy innovators. Go back and listen to any song that you, even ones that you're familiar with that you really like. Go back, turn off the lights, turn it up in your ears, in your headphones, in an intimate listening setting. It's not in the room, it's in your headphones, and it's right in your ear. And turn it up as loud as you can take it, and just go back and listen to some of these songs. It's amazing. Go back and listen to, here's another challenge. Go back and listen to this song by Twisted Sister. It's called "The Price." And don't, like I said, separate the music from the image. Separate the music from Twisted Sister. You know, come on. Really? You twisted sister, you know? I can hear you. I know. But go back and listen to that song, The Price, by Twisted Sister, and listen to what Dee Schneider is doing with his voice. I mean, it is operatic. It is amazing what he is able to do, his range as a singer, and oh my gosh, the passion in his voice. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in the room while he's doing that live, like in the room in front of you. It would have to be amazing, you know? So there's another challenge. Go listen to those two songs and maybe comb through some of the songs that you're already familiar with and the songs that you already like, and really try this idea of active listening. All right? So there you go, folks. I gotta get to work. Okay, so it is Tuesday, August 25th. The year is 2020. There was a TV show that was very popular in America that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the show was called The West Wing. And, I kind of have a funny history with this show. Probably unlike any other TV show. So, my wife actually got me into it, okay? And when the show was on TV, when it first came out and everything, I could not care less. I mean, it was so boring and so dumb and just so, just not anything that I would be interested in, but that was a long time ago. And it was obviously, before I was married. So, my wife has kind of gotten me into this show, The West Wing, over the past 20 years. Okay. And, it's a fantastic show. It's so well done and so well written and acted and just, I guess inspiring sometimes as a American citizen. It's inspiring and all that. I know it sounds corny, but I'm not too cool for it. I don't care what people think. I never have. So, it's this show that has really kind of become, one of my favorite shows, and I find that humorous. I started out hating it so much, but after, a little while, it's kind of like Bob Dylan songs, I couldn't get it at first. Like, why do people like this so much? It's so boring. And then just, one day it just clicked and I got it. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I get it now, And The West Wing was a show like that, that's how it happened. But there's this one particular episode that I wanted to talk about. Actually, it's a scene in this episode where there's a woman. She's a Republican. She's really beautiful, long blonde hair, your typical Republican doll, and she's working in the West Wing. She's working in the White House with a Democratic administration. Okay, so she's been hired by the president because she's good at what she does, not because she's Democrat or Republican, because she's good at the job. So he hires the best person for the job, and it's this character named Ainsley Hayes, which is a really funny character. A lot of really good, funny moments with this character on the show. But in this particular episode, they're talking about the issue of gun control, okay? And it's really kind of stuck with me. This argument that's illustrated in this episode of The West Wing, it's so well done, where she's arguing with a group of people, that work in the White House about the issue of gun control. And she's a Republican, a gun-toting, Bible-toting Republican, and they're Dems, they're kind of like anti-gun, all that stuff, right? You know the drill. But anyway, throughout the course of this discussion they're having, this character, Ainsley Hayes, makes a point. And it goes something like this. Now, of course, I'm paraphrasing, but it goes something like this. Like, the problem that you have, you Democrats have, is not the guns. It's not that you don't like the guns. It's you don't like the people who like guns. Now, think about that. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? It's not really, okay? It's not that people don't really like guns. It's that they don't like the people who like guns. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? It always stuck with me. Like, once I really paid attention to that particular episode, once I took the time and really listened, I probably had to watch it a few times, because by this point, I've watched the entire West Wing series, from beginning to end. I've watched it numerous times with my wife. It's one of those things we can binge watch, I got like the deluxe version box set, West Wing DVD set or whatever, and we've watched it so much. But this one episode, that one line, there's a lot of those in that show, trust me. There's a lot of great moments of writing. Aaron Sorkin is a genius when it comes to writing, and he got a chance to stretch out a lot on that show. I mean, he really did get to show his stuff. But think about that, the problem isn't that you don't like guns. The problem is that you don't like the people who like guns. And that can go for any issue on either side of the aisle. Isn't that interesting? Maybe there's some truth to that it's not really the issues in politics that we have a problem with. It's the people. It's the people. It's not just the ideas or just the suggestions or, just their position on an issue. It's the people. And maybe that points to something in America that is like really on the table right now and really should be paid attention to. And maybe we should all take that opportunity to think about that a little bit, maybe, and recalibrate, rethink it a little bit. Maybe it harkens back to that idea I was talking about, in the past couple episodes of the Singularity Podcast, where, I'm really kind of, I don't know. I kind of think that maybe our will towards each other really isn't that great. Maybe it's not the issues that we don't like. Maybe it's the people who are pushing those ideas that we don't like. Interesting, isn't it? I'm going to leave it there for today. I think I meandered a little bit too much yesterday, so I'm going to cut this one a little short. But I'll talk to you some more tomorrow, Wednesday, all right? Peace out, everybody. Think about it. Okay? Think about it. It's not the issues. It's not guns we don't like or something. It's the people that like guns. That could be the problem, That could be either a symptom or, an indicator. Think about it. Talk to you tomorrow. Okay, it is Wednesday, the 26th of August. The year is 2020. I was watching this movie with my wife called 24-Hour Party People. It's the story of a record company that came out of Manchester, England, and became famous and put out a lot of really influential bands. And it's kind of a whimsical, funny story, about Factory Records. That was the name of the company. And they released, Joy Division, New Order, and, the story is really kind of focused on this band called the Happy Mondays that came out on Factory Records. And just a really quick thought about it. It was like the story about these guys who were in this band, and just how reckless they were, and they just the drugs and the substance abuse and all that stuff. And it's really done in a really funny way. I mean, the story is actually funny, and of course it is. When people are partiers and when they're wild and all that, it's entertaining and usually very funny. A lot of funny stories, right? I mean, I'm sure you can relate. You've been drunk before or whatever, and you have stories that you can tell. But with this group, the Happy Mondays, it was just off the chain. I mean, they were just, taking whatever drug they could, just 24-hour party people, But the reason I'm bringing it up, it's just a quick thought that I've had, when you watch the movie and you listen to the music and stuff, all that stuff, watch the videos or whatever, it's funny, it's funny. But when you watch an interview with those guys now, like in the present day, it's not so funny. It's really not. It's actually tragic, how much damage these guys did to their brains. I mean, they just they have, it's probably arguable that they have literally, from the drugs they took in their youth, the vast quantities of drugs that they took, hard drugs too, that they have retarded themselves. I mean, they are cautionary tales now. It's not so funny when you see yeah, I'm laughing, but I shouldn't be. But when you see the reality of, what kind of problems that lifestyle will leave you with, if you're fortunate enough, to live in your 50s, or 60s or something. And, it got me to thinking about it. And it's like, I can only speak for myself, okay? I can't speak for everyone else, but I have a feeling that there's going to be a few people who can relate to what I'm saying here. When I was younger, obviously I was invincible, right? I was very reckless and did a lot of very stupid things, and it's part of growing up, it's part of being a young person. You think you know everything, and it's so true. It's so true. It's a cliche, but it's so true. But, there's another side to this that, a lot of people don't really talk about. And like I said, I can only speak for myself. Having done a lot of really reckless and stupid things when I was a kid, one thing I never counted on, okay, was that, I was going to get older. Time would pass and I would get older and I would mature, and, you get to about the age of 40, 45, 50, you get into that range, and, this thing happens, right? Where you start to kind of evaluate your life. You look back on your youth, you look back on the years that have passed, you're reaching the halfway point, 50, 40 or 50, maybe a midlife crisis, that kind of thing. That's what they refer to? I don't know. I wouldn't call it a crisis. It's more just like a realization, or, opening my eyes, having a broader understanding of how the world works, and, what is right and good, and, what you should be doing with your time, And so after thinking about it, I've come to this conclusion that, they say that hindsight is 20/20 vision, that a wise man once said that it isn't until 20 years later, after an event or something in your life, that you truly understand where you were, with the benefit and the privilege of time and reflection, you can look back and you can realize some of the massive mistakes that you made, or maybe some of the major achievements that you've made too. Okay, to be fair, you have to look at it both ways. But, you arrive eventually, if you're fortunate enough to get older, you arrive at this point in your life. And I don't care, how tough you are. I don't care how smart or stupid you are. I don't care. You will, with the benefit of age and time, you will reach a point where you look back, you reflect, and then ultimately, probably, you have regrets. Okay? Now, I've never been one of those people who says, oh, I'm happy with all the mistakes I've made because they made me the person I am today. That's bullshit. Okay? I think it is. It's like, man, I look back on the mistakes I made and I'm ashamed. I regret them. I wish I could go back and do it over, but there are no do-overs. And that's something you realize when you get older. And I wish, and this is the thought I have today, I wish that I would have paid more attention and been more responsible, been a better person and made smarter decisions than I had made when I was younger. I look back on that person that I was when I was younger, and it shocks me how reckless I was, how silly I was, how stupid I was. And oh man, at the time I thought I was the bee's knees. I thought I was doing just fine. But now, looking back, I'm pushing 50 years old, looking back on my life, and I think, man, here are some words of wisdom that the young people that are maybe listening to this podcast right now can take into their head and really kind of maybe think about it at least. Okay? Be careful, okay, young people. Be very careful in your younger years to make as few mistakes as possible. Really pay attention to your actions and how they affect people and what they do and the impact you have. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it lightly. Be very careful about your choices and your decisions. Hopefully you can find somebody who's wise and older than you to help guide you. That would be great. It's not always the case for everyone, but be careful. Be very careful. Tread lightly in your younger years, because it doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, how tough you are, how soft you are, what kind of person you are. If you are fortunate enough to live enough life to, get to age 50, 60, 70, 80, you will, no matter who you are, you will reach a point in your life where you look back, and the mistakes, the things I would do different. I wish I could scream at my younger self. Get out of there. Don't do that. Go another way. Go left instead of right. Like zig, don't zag. The regret. Now, is it all consuming? No. But let's face it. You look back, you reflect, through older, hopefully much more mature eyes, and avoid it. Young people, avoid it. Trust me, hear what I say. I'm warning you. Be very, very careful about the decisions you make in your youth, because the fewer mistakes you have, the happier you will be when you get older, if you're lucky enough to get older. So there you go. There's my thought for today. Peace out, everybody. Okay, so it's Thursday, August 27th, 2020. There's this song by Neil Diamond, a famous singer. It's called America, And, this song over time has become, kind of like a flag-wavy, patriotic song, about America, this idea of America and immigration and what that means, And they play it on the 4th of July over the loudspeakers while the fireworks are going off, right? Because it's this anthem, this epic anthem, and very well constructed and performed song, obviously, because it's so famous now. I mean, it's just so well done. But there's a kind of stigma that has been attached to that song now, where it's falling into that category of like cheesy, Americana, flag wavy, patriotic, yay, that kind of thing. And there are a contingency of people that kind of look down on that maybe a little bit, they kind of laugh it off like it's cheesy and corny and it's not cool anymore, it's not cool, never was, but I gotta tell you, I think differently about that song than a lot of other people do, because encapsulated in that song is this idea, that's not about necessarily just the idea of America, it's about the idea of emigrating from another country, leaving your home, and abandoning your home and going off into a new frontier where it's unfamiliar, it's maybe a little bit dangerous, there's the possibility of failing, sinking or swimming, that kind of thing, and that's a very serious theme for a song. That's a pretty heavy idea, and a lot of people stay in the city that they were born in. They live in the same region, they never move, they stay close to what they know, and it's very common, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it does take a certain amount of, pluck, right? A certain amount of attitude and ambition to leave your home behind and go off into the unfamiliar, to go on an adventure with your life, not some game. I mean, it's with your life, to leave behind everything you know. It's a very serious idea. And for the people who did leave their home for whatever reason, maybe you were in the military, maybe you got a job somewhere, or whatever it was, whatever the reasons were, regardless of any of that, you still had to pack up and go. You had to actually do it. And that's not easy to do. And I can speak from experience because I've actually done that. Now, I didn't go to another country, which is whoa. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would have been like, but I guess I kind of can, because I might as well have, right? Moving to a city far away from my family, far away from the streets I walked as a kid, and the restaurants and the things that were familiar, to abandon all that and to go off into the unknown. I actually did that. And, it wasn't the most difficult thing in the world, but it wasn't the easiest either, And when I hear that song by Neil Diamond, America, that's what he's singing about. He's singing about the idea of leaving behind what is familiar with the, with the spirit of adventure and going off into the unknown and having hope. Hope. Great word. That you will have a better life. That you're leaving behind the dark days and there's hope for the future. You're going to go to a new place. You're going to put your stakes down and you're going to move forward and you're going to succeed in an unknown, unfamiliar place. So when people that I know, laugh at this song, America by Neil Diamond, I don't laugh because I see it differently and I listen to what he's singing about and how he's singing about it, the poetry in his lyrics and what he's saying, and it's actually quite beautiful. It's really exceptional, an exceptional artistic breath. This song, America by Neil Diamond. I suggest you go back and listen to it. And if you do, if you so choose to do that, keep what I've just said to you in mind. That spirit of ambition and courage, to go off into the unknown with the hope for the future that it might be better for you, that you'll find, the American dream, what America has promised the people who emigrate from other countries. And let me tell you, you'll hear people harp on America and all of its flaws and all that kind of stuff, and the education system is bad, and this is bad and that is bad. But let me tell you something. There are a lot of people from all over the world that are dreaming of coming here, and that's not for no reason. It's like, just think about colleges alone. People coming from all over the world to go to MIT, or to Harvard or Yale or Brown. People coming from all over the world to go to Berkeley, California and go to school. That's just school. That's not even all the other stuff. Just think about that. What America offers people who have, no life or no chance for success in whatever city or country they're in. And they gird up their loins, they pack up their stuff, and they make their way to America to make their dreams come true. Yeah, you can roll your eyes, you can call it cheesy, and you can call it corny, but for a lot of people, that's reality. That is actually happening. Think about that. When you see that guy, the hot dog vendor, well, we used to see hot dog vendors. Won't probably be seeing any of those anytime soon. But, for the sake of conversation today, that guy who has that hot dog stand, on Times Square, he emigrated from, Lebanon, and now he's making his way in America, and he's starting out small. Hopefully, he'll be able to hand something down to his children, give them a little bit better life than he had. And the idea would be that, each generation would go a step up, in status, like, in security, financial security, right? That's the dream of America, So, when you see the guy, who's driving the cab with the turban on his head, who just emigrated from India, I guess maybe have a little compassion, right? This guy has balls. It takes balls to do that, to pack your family up and make your way to another country like that. When I hear that song by Neil Diamond and I hear what he's saying and how he's singing about it, that's what it makes me think. Actually, there's another song. It's called The Winds of Change. It's by a group called the Scorpions. And, it was written around the time when the Berlin Wall was coming down. And for all you young people, that's like an abstraction to you, probably. You don't even really know. You saw it in a book, maybe, in history class. But I actually lived through it. I was alive. I watched it unfolding. And, there was this song that the Scorpions were inspired to write about this idea of the wall coming down and the hope for the people who lived there, who were directly affected every day. Their families were torn apart. Their lives were destroyed because of this frickin' wall, and what it meant, symbolically for this wall to come down. Now, I'm an American kid from the suburbs. What the hell do I care about what's going on in East and West Germany? But even I, in my suburban bubble, was able to kind of get the sentiment of that song, and not so much what it meant to me, okay? Because a lot of my friends and people now would consider it corny and cheesy and not cool and, lame and, how idealistic this song called The Winds of Change, singing about the hope that the people in East and West Germany had, with this wall coming down, this horrible scar across their country, and in history, like watching it come down and people being free, the freedom, and the hope for the future. And when I hear that song, I really kind of get it. I always have, right away, that it's not about me. They're not singing about me. They're singing about the people that lived there and what that song meant to those people. I would bet dollars to donuts that to this day, when people from that area, East Germany, West Germany, the people who were affected, their lives were affected, their daily lives were affected by that wall, when they hear that song, even now, it's probably, for lack of a better word, it's probably very moving still, because they can remember, they remember the time when the wall was up and when it came down, Think about that. The Winds of Change. Go back and listen to it. He's singing about this experience that so many of these people had, And I know it sounds all, imagistic and, dramatic, but damn it, it was. It was. This was their life. It really is not a joke, and it's not just a song with these, mushy lyrics. It really has meaning for a lot of people, I would imagine. So there's your thought for today, Thursday, the 27th of August, 2020. Okay, happy innovators. It is Friday, the 28th of August, 2020. The final installment of my 5-day podcast. And I was just thinking the other night, I was remembering, the Occupy movement. Remember that? Back in 2011, oh, what a strange thing that was, wasn't it? I mean, you think, today is much weirder. I will admit, things have gotten worse, okay? But at the time when Occupy was actually happening, it was really quite remarkable. It was like, wow, this is actually, something happening. People are demanding change, and wow, look at this. They're taking a stand, and that is, after all, what the framers intended. Like, you're supposed to be allowed to do that. That's how things change in America, right? People demand it. And it's kind of funny because I remember, back in the day, back in 2011, when the Occupy movement was starting and all that stuff was going on, I was working on a song called Almost Time. I wound up releasing it, a few years ago on a different album, and much later, after this period of time, probably in 2014 or 2015 or something. So I wrote the song back in 2011, and it was really kind of around the time Occupy was happening, and I just really kind of thought, wow, that's kind of a weird coincidence. Like there's this, wind of change blowing through America right now, and I got this song called Almost Time, and it's about the future, and hope. There again, that word hope. What a great word. I think it's something that a lot of people need right now. Not sure how much there is to go around, but that's a separate podcast. But I also remember when the Occupy movement was happening, there were a couple of things that I found a little bit suspicious about what I was watching. Okay, almost like I remember specifically watching the video footage, the news coverage of what was happening on Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street. And they had these protesters, on the sidewalk, waving their banners, and they're picketing and protesting. And then they showed this group of, fat cats sitting on one of the balconies, or standing on one of the balconies of, one of the buildings of Wall Street, like the New York Stock Exchange. And, they're wearing pearls and dresses and suits and ties and, big bucks, big money people, right? Looking down on the, proletariats, the peasants down on the sidewalk, with their picketing and their signs, and, these fat cats are up on this balcony, like drinking champagne. And I thought to myself, when I saw that back in 2011, as God is my witness, I thought to myself, that's staged. That's fake. It's like scripted. It's like a movie. These a-holes up on this balcony, right? Like drinking champagne, and let them eat cake, those peasants down there on the sidewalk. What does it mean? I don't know. I guess I'll leave that to you to kind of think about. That was my impression. So now when I see anything about Occupy Wall Street, anything from that era, what do I remember? I remember that I got the distinct impression that what I was watching was staged. It really seemed that way to me. It was ridiculous. What was happening was ridiculous. Now, I might be wrong, but I don't know. I'm not sure. You decide. You decide for yourself, and I'll decide for myself, but I don't know. A little weird. I was also thinking about this. There's so many people right now. It's like, especially in America, but really all over the world, that are either, for President Trump or against President Trump. There's like this, war of culture, happening, or whatever you want to call it, right? So I guess maybe what I should do at this point is, give you like an opportunity to opt out, like to turn off my podcast right now, because I'm going to talk about Donald Trump a little bit, about some thoughts that I've had, and they may be like, they may trigger you, or they may offend you or something. I don't want to trigger you, I really don't. I want to just talk openly, be able to talk openly and freely about some things. But so there's your opportunity. I'll count to 3, and then that'll give you a chance to turn this off. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, are you still with me? I hope so. Anyway, I was thinking about Donald Trump. He's kind of a fascinating character. Whether you love him or hate him, he's a fascinating character. And of course, since he's been president, I've just kind of noticed, I guess, a lot of things about the past. These times when Donald Trump had emerged, in the public eye over the past 30 or 40 years, He's just been kind of like in movies and commercials and sporting events and making the news, the gossip columns and of, his wife and, the money and, the wealth, all those things. And, like I said, whether you love Donald Trump or you hate him, you can't deny, okay, that he's had quite a remarkable life. When you think about it, like, regardless of what you think about him personally, when you think about, putting yourself in his shoes, living that life, wow, what a life, Can you even imagine? I can't, not really. I mean, it's been hard scrabble for me, my whole life. I've had to scratch for every penny, or to make ends meet, right? I mean, it's always been this struggle to, keep the basics, But can you even imagine? Can we even imagine, right? As a society, as a culture, can we even begin to imagine what his life must have been like? I'm sure that it was glamorous. I'm sure it was a lot of times comfortable, but the pressure, and the responsibilities that come with, being a billionaire, being like this guy who has so much money and power and whatever, whether you love him or hate him. It could be anybody. It doesn't have to be Donald Trump. It could be anybody who finds themselves in that situation. But then, you think about it, and it's like, how many people are billionaires, millionaires, billionaires, money to burn, but even they don't get to become president. Not only do they have money and wealth beyond anything you can imagine, and, responsibility and, those things too, but then they get power, the leader of the free world, all in one lifetime. Can you imagine? It's got to be overwhelming to stop, to be Donald Trump and to stop and look back, right? Like, what a life. It's amazing. It is amazing, how many people can say they've done that? And it is kind of interesting. There's a lot of things about Donald Trump that are, good and bad. It's not all good and it's not all bad. I'm somewhere in the middle with our president. I'm not totally dissatisfied. I'm actually, a lot of the time, I think it's a little bit entertaining. Probably like a lot of people do. But I think about him a lot, of course, now because the election is coming up, and there's a lot to think about with our president. There's a lot of interesting things about this character, this person. Like I said, love him or hate him, doesn't matter. Let's stop for a moment. Let's put the politics down for a minute and just kind of examine this person, as a man, and what he's managed to do, or what he's managed to become in his life. It's astounding. And it's also kind of a little bit weird too. There's this kind of sentiment that I see now emerging around Donald Trump where, you have these people that are claiming he's anointed by God, he's this messianic figure, on the world scene, and he's been chosen by Almighty God to change and purge, and to make things happen. And, when I hear people talk like that, personally, I don't know. It's a little weird, okay? It's a little creepy. Like, Donald Trump may be or may not be a lot of things, but he's not Jesus. He's not a deity, he's a man. So it makes me a little bit nervous, and it weirds me out a little bit when I hear people talking about him as this, messianic figure, this anointed king, by God. Oh, okay, maybe that's true. I don't know. Maybe it is. But it's just a little weird to me. And I'm a Christian. I'm a practicing Christian. I try to be. So, it weirds me out even. That's a little strange. But, another thought I have, and this will be my final thought for today. There's all this stuff going on right now with China and Donald Trump. Okay. Now, my understanding of the situation right now with, global trade, exports and imports, all those things, negotiations and deals for trade. I don't know everything there is to know about it. In fact, I would probably consider myself someone who doesn't know very much about all that kind of stuff. But one thing I gotta say, I can't deny it, I am not sure what happened with the trade negotiations with China. Okay. But I can imagine, and I get the distinct impression from what I'm hearing and seeing right now, that when Donald Trump sat down at the negotiating table with China, he must have put the screws to those guys. Like they've never had it before. Because, man, has there been a backlash over what he managed to change when it came to trade negotiations with America and China. I don't know what happened. I don't know what he said or did, but I'll tell you what, I can imagine, okay? Like I said before, I'll say it again, love him or hate him, when it comes to negotiating a deal, you can say what you want, okay, but his track record proves it, okay? This guy knows how to negotiate a deal, okay? On a bad day, he knows how to do that. But can you imagine the power and the people that he could bring to a negotiating table now that he's the leader of the free world? He has his pick of all the people. When he needs an accountant to come to China with him to negotiate a trade deal. Can you imagine the guy that he can get? He's the president. All he has to do is ask. And you're kind of like obligated to say yes, as a form of your patriotism. The president is requesting your skill. You must serve your country if he's asking for you. So, food for thought. Can you imagine the people that Donald Trump brings to a negotiating table now? The sleekest, slickest, smartest, most ruthless dudes to sit down and negotiate a deal, at his side of the table. Think about that. It's got to be overwhelming. Apparently, it must have been because, like I said, I don't know for sure, but it seems like something happened, with these trade deals with China that just really rubbed their rhubarb. They are just, he knocked them back on their heels, and oh my, are we seeing the backlash, but think about that, the power he wields, when it comes to negotiating. Maybe he's not great at everything else, but let me tell you, when it comes to negotiating a deal, on behalf of America, and it's like, I really do hope, that Donald Trump is really good. I hope that, he's really on the side of America. He's not going to sell us out somehow in the future or something. I hope not. I hope that, it can take it at face value, But who knows, right? It's such a confusing time. But, I'll tell you what, I really am glad he's on our side, when it comes to negotiating stuff. Yeah, I'm glad he's on our side, You can't deny it, whatever you think about the man, whatever your politics are, or, whatever your thoughts are, or whatever, you can't deny it. There aren't too many people I can think of that I would rather have, negotiating with Putin, or negotiating with China, It's like, I don't know if there's anybody that could do it like that guy can, especially now, like I said, with the power that he has, the people he can bring to the table. Can you imagine the team of people, even the secretaries are top shelf, everything is exactly, the best, the most powerful, the most talented people, think about it. A little bit of hope, I guess, maybe, but no, I can, I know. There's a lot of people that don't like Donald Trump. There's a lot of people who do like Donald Trump, but maybe sometimes, if we're broad-minded enough and we're, intellectual enough and we are, happy innovators, we can put aside politics and just kind of look at the person for what they are. Pretty amazing. Very unusual, unlikely outcome for a life. What an amazing life. Can you imagine a millionaire, like 30 years old, like he's never known poverty. He's never known, the idea of having nothing, having nothing. He's always had something, right? So, quite a remarkable thing to think about, really. And to go all the way to the Oval Office in your lifetime, to go through all that stuff and wind up in the Oval Office, that happened. It's pretty amazing, folks. Some food for thought. Hopefully I didn't offend you. I guess I have to put this in here. Hopefully I didn't offend you. Hopefully you're not triggered. I guess I'm going to leave it there for now. I got some stuff to take care of today, and this is going to be a pretty long podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to take off. Peace out. Have a great week. Take care of yourself. And you'll be hearing me on the next podcast. So, this is Mike Bostwick from Pipe Choir Records signing off. And remember, folks, if you want to keep what you've got to give it away. Take it easy. Okay, happies, I got some music for you today for the end of the podcast. I mentioned in the podcast that song I have called Almost Time. I wrote it around the time of the Occupy movement. I didn't write it because of the Occupy movement. It just happened to be a coincidence that I was writing this song about the hope for the future and, an optimistic kind of song. And right at that same time, the whole Occupy Wall Street thing happened. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. Like I'm writing this kind of theme about hope in the future. And here's this wind of change blowing through Wall Street. Those people from America taking a stand right now. And it was all innocent and different at that time. So when I hear the song Almost Time, I kind of go back in my memory a little bit to that time, and I remember the things and Occupy this and all those, protesters and, this energy, that was happening. And this song kind of reminds me of that whenever I hear it. So, without further ado, the song Almost Time, I released it on the Pipe Choir Escons album. I did 3 versions of it. One version was a rock and roll version, another version was an acoustic guitar version, and then another version was the PC3 Honest Wave version, where it was 15 minutes or more. I think that song went about 20 minutes. I'm not sure. The PC3 version of Almost Time was probably, I think, 20 minutes. But it's a good song. I'm going to let you hear the version I did and the version that I released on the Pipe Choir album, the rock and roll version. So, without further ado, Almost Time by Pipe Choir, circa 2017. Peace out, everybody. Champions of the spot.